We do have like one screenshot to go through, which, you know, is kind of what they had
could definitely dissect this for about 12 years, so maybe let's not, but...
Well, I think that the core of it here is that there's the things, in this case it's druid, right? So there's the shit that's going to make you a druid, and then there's the shit that's going to make you your spec of druid.
Yeah, resto druid.
I am very happy at the idea of them splitting these things apart.
Yeah, it's a more... I mean, it's for druid specifically, they kind of already had that, so this is a good example for it, because druids obviously had their affinity talent.
Yeah.
And then they had the Mighty Bash, Mass Entangle, and Heart of the Wild. So having a lot more kind of individual like choice between those makes this way more sensible. It's hard to think of what they could do for other things, but even like looking at that specifically, obviously look at the resto tree. There's a bunch of life bloom stuff. There's doesn't seem to be a huge amount of choice there the way it's laid out, just like progression wise. But like, you know, obviously there's the inner peace icon is grey, but there's Convoke at the end. And the other screenshot we saw, there was Convoke and Incarn were a choice. So that's a kind of interesting, that seems like one of the more, what an old talent choice would be. Just Incarn or Convoke. And like, do you want the 3-minute cooldown or the 1-minute cooldown? Yeah. There you go. But I think it's interesting seeing so much of the stuff at the left, because obviously you look at the left-hand side there, you see Rake, you see Rip. You see a bunch of feral abilities. On the right-hand side, you see a bunch of boomkin abilities, even moonkin forms there. So you can kind of see how it's like, oh, you want to go down one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot nicer overall than just, I press the affinity that gives me what I want. Especially because you see, I'm trying to look for it there. Is it, actually, that's a very good point. This person specifically, this talent tree is talented a little bit into bear abilities down the left-hand side there. But on the right-hand side, they come back over for Typhoon.
Yeah.
Which... if you're a resto druid, you can't do that. You can't have Typhoon and bear form stuff. But in this system you can, which immediately opens up more freedom.
This is basically giving people something we've wanted for a long ass time, more build options.
Yep.
And I guess too, you know, perhaps it's the case, right, that this right-hand side tree, it's going to have its bis for your various scenarios.
Yeah, of course it will.
But perhaps the dividing of this means there can be more freedom in the left-hand side of the tree.
Yeah,
I think druids where you'll see that like the most obviously, I guess.
That's probably why they did that.
But I just think there's so many more options they have as designers here. I think they certainly, if they're going to have an ability to put loads of fan favorites into these trees, and if they balance them right, you could be able to have a lot of things that we've lost. You know, thinking about this, and it also seems like this is the sort of thing that they can add to. Like a little bit more readily. Maybe instead of adding straight down like they used to do, they might add wide. Yeah.
Which would be more interesting because, as an example, obviously it helps that I'm fucking playing Resto Druid in this example they chose.
This is dead handy.
Yeah, so I'm looking at stuff like there's Heart of the Wild. Well, I assume it's Heart of the Wild in the middle, unselected in that tree. Then you see, you know, at the bottom of that Heart of the Wild, over to the right, there's an Innervate buff. And then over to the left, there's what looks like Inner Peace and Survival Instincts. So you kind of see there's a lot of kind of different stuff going on there where for a lot of people, like pulling that away is going to be a problem. But the idea of choosing between Innervate or Heart of the Wild in terms of maybe not like having access to them, but I suppose actually Innervates, you definitely have Innervate because it's over there on the right-hand side as well. But choosing between what you're going to buff and make more useful versus have it or don't have it, I think adds so much more. Like, I mean, having Innervate, but you have it less, but you have Heart of the Wild as well, then all of a sudden you're kind of, okay, well, this fight doesn't need much healing, so we'll pull away from Innervate because we don't need the mana. We'll pump it into damage through Heart of the Wild, and I'm up the Boomkin tree, so I can Moonkin Heart of the Wild. Stuff like that seems a lot more compelling when you have all of this going on.
Yeah, and it really seems like they're just trying to be less fictitious.
Yeah.
Which, that's a really good thing. Another thing, too, I guess, is there's some to talk about what they didn't say. But there's also some to talk about what they did say at the very start. Mm-hmm. You know, if you read in between the lines or even directly what he said, quite an admission of things not going ideal for Ian at the start, I think.
Not exactly in the way I think would have been necessary, which is
yes, definitely.
Listen, everyone, we have really screwed the pooch on this one. We're very sorry. He was never going to say that.
No.
But at the same time, he's like, that didn't go so well. You're like...
Yep.
At least you're openly admitting it instead of the whole, this is the plan all along. We only had 2 patches planned. Ignore everything in the data mine. Ignore everything that we've talked about. This was the plan.
Yeah.
None of that. Basically, they're trying to stop gaslighting us.
Yeah.
which is a decent first step for solving community issues.
Yeah, and I think what Ian said, which seemed to be a lot more, it's like a tacit admission of Shadowlands being a very big fucking spaghetti of mistakes.
Yeah.
What they didn't talk about was a new borrowed power system or a thing like that. And maybe that's making me think, like, maybe there isn't one. Also, this was a decently sparse showing overall. There was no sort of big deep dive, which maybe thinks, we're a little bit earlier on in the process here.
For sure.
But they didn't have a big new borrowed power system. And as much as, get your artifact weapon, become the High Lord of your Order Hall, do all that. That can be exciting as, for an announcement or a reveal. It will make people think, oh, big new feature, reason to come back. But those things have ended up having such a cost as time has went on, right? That, I suppose I just wonder the void that they leave, what's it going to look like?
Well,
how will it feel?
There's, I guess there's kind of two reads on that. There's one, the void is there because they haven't decided, or it'd be too controversial. It's kind of like the big changes side of that. There's the also side of, well, which players are we losing? A lot of them, of course, but we're not losing players that are like super engaged in M+, which means we're announcing to players that we're making the expansion. Should we spend 20 minutes saying, here's Mythic Plus, here's the changes we're making to affixes, here's some of the gearing process. We're going to give you more Valor substantially than last time. Valor's going to buy new stuff. Even if they were planning that, there's no point in saying it because people who play Mythic Plus will play Mythic Plus. So a lot of this is just the void is either stuff that's going to change the same. I assume it's going to change largely or stay largely the same. And it's just they didn't mention it because they know those players are like, I don't want to say locked in, but they're the players they have the kind of they have enough faith to enjoy the game. Yeah. Whereas this one is like, we're sorry, we have no content for you for the past however many years. Please come back. Our flying is fun, and we've got a new class that looks different and cool. We finally added ranged DPS. Sorry about the wait. Also, the UI is good. You don't need 47 add-ons anymore. Please come back. Talents are back. You wanted them back. Obviously, I'm framing that as desperation when it's very much just like a very clear step taken. But yeah,